you bring the bread?
I thought about it twice this morning, and I forgot again.
No worries, here we go.
I'll give you some dough next time.
You're listening to Radio Kidnappers, the voice of Hawke's Bay. This is the program called Your Time to Shine. It's our pleasure, as always, to have in the studio the host of Your Time to Shine, Celine Harlow. How you going, Celine?
I'm doing well. Ooh, I bumped the table. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. And you're from Dawning Light.
I am.
Yeah, tell us what Dawning Light is.
It is. Oh, actually, I was just writing a post about it this morning. You know, coincidence. Anyway, so I called my business My Dawning Light because I thought... Well, I had a list of businesses, of potential names for my business, and My Dawning Light was the one I resonated the most with, because I thought, when you say My Dawning Light, then your light will be dawning as well. Right. Isn't that poetic?
That's a great.
So it's a blessing in itself.
So every day is a new day, a new dawning light.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And aren't we blessed to live in such a great place? We live in paradise, really, don't we?
We do. Hawke's Bay is a beautiful place to live in.
Now, we're going to talk about being an empath, and I might suggest to you there probably isn't one man of my age out there who doesn't know one empath, and that will be Councillor Deanna Troi from Star Trek, The Next Generation.
I don't know the reference.
Don't?
All right,
Wow.
Tell us about.
Have you heard of Star Trek, haven't you?
I have.
Well, she's an empath,
Okay.
just like what you're going to talk about today. Tell us what an empath is for those who haven't watched Star Trek.
Well, I haven't watched Star Trek, so I don't really know.
But you do know what an empath
that's okay.
is. Yeah.
So an empath is someone who who has an ability to feel into other people's emotions and thoughts. And in recent years, we've seen an increase in the number of people who describe themselves as empath. So that's really interesting.
So what's the point of being an empath? I mean, I would never claim to be an empath, but I can generally tell, for instance, looking at you right now, I could say you're probably quite happy.
And I can probably tell that you think this is crap, so I don't believe in that at all.
No,
goodness, I'm an empath.
So am I an empath by judging? I'm just reading your body language, really, aren't I? And if
That's
you came
right,
in
yeah.
with your face looking a bit miserable, I could say, oh, you're not in a very good mood today, Celine. And you would say, wow, how clever you are. It's not as simple as that, though, is it?
Well, the idea is that we're all connected to each other, and it's kind of like a survival mechanism. You know, if I can read your body language, and I know that right now you don't want to murder me, then I'm safe. So that's the basis,
right.
For us living as a community together. But the idea is that for empaths, they don't have a choice. They cannot not feel other people's emotions and thoughts. They are forced to feel those, and it kind of feels like a burden rather than a gift or a social skill.
I was going to say, it must be a burden.
It is.
So you're an empath?
I guess I used to be, and I used to describe myself as someone who was really sensitive. And over the years, I have a lot of examples of people who told me that if I continued to be so sensitive, I would never survive in this world because I was just too sensitive to people maybe criticizing me or judging me or rejecting me, or I could feel other people's emotions or suffering, and so that really affected me on a deep level because then I would always be exhausted and drained.
So you said you were an empath, but you're not now?
I don't describe myself as an empath anymore. I think that's kind of like when you say I am an empath. I actually recently watched a documentary about someone who wanted to find out if she was an empath or not, and she was very sarcastic, very cynical. I don't know what the adjective is, and it was really interesting to see that when you describe yourself as an empath, there's kind of like a bit of the ego is stepping in as well. I'm an empath. I'm better than you. I'm more special. I'm magic.
And there's more than one type of empath, isn't there?
Well, I think empathy comes down to, actually, I looked into the etymology of empathy, so I thought we could look into it because it's really interesting. So generally speaking, it means caring for or wanting to help people.
Yeah.
And it comes from the word, where did I write it? From the ancient Greek empatheia, which originally meant great affection or passion. And then it was translated into Einfühlung in German, which means feeling into. And from that word, you had, somebody translated it into empathy. So it's feeling into the space of somebody else.
I read that there are, what you said is 100% there, but I also read that there are emotional empaths, which is what you obviously were or are. There's physical and medical empaths. There's geomantic, which are place of environment empaths, plant empaths, animal empaths, and claircognizant or intuitive empaths. So I suppose they're psychics.
What do you think about all of that?
Well, you know, the universe is a wonderful place, and there are many, many things that I do not understand, and you know, it would be far be it for me to laugh at that sort of thing because so many people believe it. And who am I to say they're wrong?
I see. I think it comes down to you feeling more connected to one aspect of the universe more than, you know. And I think most people I get in touch with or I come in contact with are sensitive empaths, you know, people who are feeling into other people's emotions and don't often recognize that these emotions don't really belong to them because they want, I think it boils down to a deep desire to see other people around you happy and healthy. And so in an attempt to see them happy and healthy, you take their suffering, you take their burden, you take their negative emotions so that they have a chance at happiness at life.
Do you have that choice to take that burden, or does it just happen?
I think it just happens, but it comes down to, I think, a limiting belief around boundaries and around, you know, wanting to serve people. But how is it serving other people? You know, if you take on their suffering, how is it serving them in, you know, on a long-term basis? Is it really helping them? Is it helping them to grow?
I wonder, do you take them so they pass them on to you, or do you share them?
I think it's an unconscious process. For me, when this happened to me a few years ago, I wasn't aware of it, but I knew that I was always drained and exhausted and I wasn't supposed to feel that way. So I looked into my diet, I looked into how much, you know, how long I was sleeping at night, and I explored all of these options, and then I had to look into, well, actually, maybe it's about your relationship with people, the quality of your relationship with people.
So, I suppose, what are we going to say? I mean, we can feel empathy for someone. So, you know, if someone passes away, for instance, we might say, you know, we feel terribly for you. You know, we are with your sadness with you. But tomorrow I'm going to be better because it's not my sadness, it's your sadness, isn't it? I'm going to get over it pretty shortly. So, but I still feel for you. So, but if I was an empath,
you wouldn't have
take
that choice.
From you,
yeah.
and I would be sad too. I'll be sad for ages.
Well, you know, compassion means suffering with, and that's, I think, the downside of empathy, of sensitivity, of feeling into someone else's thoughts or emotions, that you don't have a choice. You don't feel that you're able to switch off. And, you know, I remember having lots of friends who would always, you know, give me their stuff and tell me about their problems and their stories, and it was never reciprocated.
Yes.
But and I would, you know, we would, you know, finish our, you know, time at the coffee shop, and then I would continue thinking about them over and over and over and over again for many, many, many days. So there's no end.
No. Well, I suppose that's the sad part of being an empath, is that we can all have empathy. We can all feel for someone and what they're going through. We can feel there for their joy as well. But that disappears more or less, not quite as soon as we walk away from you. But so what are you saying? Are you empathetic to someone, or are you an empath? Or are there real empaths, or are we just empathetic?
We're all empathetic, but if you feel that you don't have a choice, it comes down to boundaries, I think. And psychologists have looked into that, and they see that there's, you know, the separation between Celine and Ken completely disappears because I'm completely, you know, immersed into your space. And so I don't, you know, that separation between the self and the other disappears. And so that's why you don't feel that there's a choice. But if you think about what your boundaries are, you know, like this is my stuff and this is your stuff, basically that's what boundaries are, then you can, I guess, step away from that empathy and learn to manage your energy better.
I watched a very interesting movie on television last week. You might have seen it. It was on TV3. Let's give them a plug. It was a great movie. It was about a young fella who, probably about your age, and he was a sports person, and he was in an accident which broke his neck. And from his neck down, he was a quadriplegic. He could move his hands, but he was a young man, a vital young man, trapped in a body which didn't do anything. So he was a head. And he made the conscious decision that he wanted to end his life. And I felt for him right through the whole movie. And then when the movie ended, he went to Switzerland and
oh, that's the Me Before You book. Oh yeah, I read the book. Yeah.
And he took his own. He had his, you know, he committed suicide because he couldn't tolerate being in that body. And I felt for him because, you know, if I had that happen to me, I would do what he did. Who would want to be trapped in a head? Some people would say, well, it's better than being dead, but I don't know. So, but we had empathy with him until the credits rolled. And then we said, wow, who'd want to walk a mile in that guy's shoes? Not us. But then we soon forgot about it because it didn't affect us. So we were empaths for the movie time, if you see what I mean. And if I reflect on it right now, I think, ooh, poor guy. But because I'm not living his life, I haven't absorbed his tragedy. Is that what happens?
I guess, I mean, that's how, blockbusters work, that you feel empathy or you feel that you can identify with one of the characters. I guess, if you really knew the person and you knew who it was before the accident and you knew how he had to change,
Yes.
After the accident, then you would feel more empathy and you'd feel that you need to help him in any way that you can. But obviously, he may have made his decision already.
Yeah. Are we feeling sorry for him or being empathetic with him? Is that the same thing?
I think feeling sorry for someone is pity more than anything else. Empathy is, I guess there's a fine line, empathy is pity, it's compassion, it's caring for other people. So it's a bunch of different feelings or different mechanisms, different processes. But empathy would be, laying awake at night thinking, how can I keep this guy alive? How can I make him change his decision? Which is, what his Carol was doing in the story.
Which is what we might do if it was a member of our family, but if it was someone who we merely knew in passing, we wouldn't be so empathetic, would we? Until we met them and then they went again.
Well, I guess that's another issue. It's that, we all believe that we're the center of our own universe. And so the rest of the world doesn't really matter.
Exactly. Do empaths have psychic abilities?
Depends what you mean by psychic abilities. I think the term is really, there's a lot of romance around it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just about realizing that we're all connected to each other because we're all human beings and we all live together in this community. And so we're connected to each other because, we want to feel safe and happy and loved in this community. So that's basic intuition, that's basic empathy.
Have you come across people in your line of work that have no empathy at all?
No, I haven't. I've only met people who have too much empathy and don't know what to do with it.
Do those people exist who have no empathy?
Gosh, yes.
I suppose they're psychopaths, are they? Are they psychopaths, those sort of people?
I think it's a defense mechanism. If you don't feel into your emotions, then there's a big part of life that's being taken away from you or that you're removing, and it makes you feel safer because emotions can be dangerous if you don't know how to handle them. Maybe
a lot of people are like that in public, but privately they have emotions. Is that what happens?
Well, I think it happens a lot with men, who are taught that, crying is for sissies, or I don't know what you say in English.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, and that you shouldn't show your emotions in public because you're a man and you should be a man and you're not a kid anymore and you're not a girl and all those things. So I think it's true for men especially, although it's changing now.
Yes, so now they're sensitive new age guys.
Fortunately for us, yes.
No, look, I don't have an issue with it. I mean, we have emotions and we should be not shy to express those emotions, should we?
Well, I think when you show your emotions, especially for men, I think it's a sign of weakness. It might be interpreted as a sign of weakness. If you cry, then you're weak. And you don't want to be weak because, you want to be at the top of the food chain. So it's a biological response.
Yeah. Okay, so as an empath, are you likely to be a depressive type of person?
If you don't know how to manage the stuff that comes to you all the time, then yes, of course. But like I said, if you define your boundaries well, and if you understand that actually, your need to care for other people, or to, you need to see other people around you happy and healthy actually comes from a deep need within you to control everything, for example, then you can better say, well, I have a choice here. And I'll get rid of those beliefs and I'll replace them with something more empowering, and then I'll have a choice.
I wonder when we say, and someone in your business, you probably genuinely mean it when you come and say, how are you today, Ken? I say, I'm great.
I do. I used to work in a coffee shop in London maybe 2 years ago. And so it was a really busy place in Soho. And I would be at the counter, and we were taking the morning orders, and it was really, really, really busy. And so I had to say, good morning, how are you doing? And they would go straight to their coffee order. And it used to hurt me so much. I really wanted to know how they were doing. I really value, genuine relationships with people. And working in a coffee shop wasn't doing it for me.
I wonder if you really did want to know that, because you go to every store in town or go to the supermarket and the checkout ladies say, or the checkout guys say, "How are you today?" And just because I can, sometimes I say, "You just wouldn't want to have my day," and they don't say anything because they don't expect that reply.
That's right. Yeah.
So, bottom line is, we don't really want to know because we've all got problems, haven't we?
Maybe I can have a sign, that says, "I really would like to know how you're doing today." And people would be forced
and
to give
then underneath
me honest
just right
answers.
Yeah, right. Maybe that's why people don't want to be empaths. So we've all got our own problems, so why do we want your problems as well?
Well, you don't have to take on my problems, but I think, if we want to, be closer together as a community, then we need to get to know each other. We're house sitting full time with my husband, and we don't often, when we go from place to place, we don't often know the neighbors, even if we stay there for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, and the neighbors just don't come and say hi, and we don't go and say hi either. And I find that really sad.
Why don't you go and say hi?
Because there's no time. There's no time.
You should make time, because that's what life's all about. Life's about getting to know your neighbours. Even if you just say good day to them. You don't do that. I'm surprised.
Do you do that?
Yes, of course I do. I don't know my neighbours well, but I know them well enough to say good day to you. And if we're going away for the weekend, we say, "Hey Pete, heading off for the weekend, would you mind just keeping an eye on the place?" And they say, "Yeah, no worries." And they come to me and they say, "Going away for the weekend, could you just keep your eye on the place?" At least I think you should know your neighbours well enough to wave to them and give them a big cheery smile.
But I think that's it. We're so focused on our own lives, then we don't actually pay attention to others. So that's a lack of compassion.
What if you're a true empath and you're absorbing all this negative energy? Because I guess in the main, negative energy is more prevalent than positive energy.
I disagree, but okay.
Do you really?
I do. I think, I think it's one of my privileges, in my line of work, to see many people, wanting to change their lives and being happier. So I see more happiness than I see sadness, which is great.
Well, you
awesome.
do, because I think people of that ilk seek you out.
Yes. What's your point?
Well, because I think the average person might not be quite as happy as what you think. Would you agree with that or not?
I don't agree. I think if you feel that you're a sad person, that you're in a lot of suffering, that you've been through a lot of sad stuff in your life, then you always have a choice, and you always have the choice to grow and learn from what you've been through and choose to see the bright side of life. And you always have a choice. So if you're holding on to, if you're choosing to focus on the sad stuff, then why are you doing so? Because it's keeping you safe, most probably. But you always have a choice.
Yeah. Do you think that most people do look on the bright side of life?
I think they try to, and I don't think most people really know how to, so they do their best with what they know.
So if someone came to you and said, "Look, I need to be more empathetic in my life," what would you say to them? How would they first of all approach that?
Learn to love yourself. The rest will follow. That's the easy part.
It sounds easy, but it's not really that easy, is it?
I think it is. I mean, self-love is really about, embracing all aspects of you, no matter how, sad they may look at first. But self-love is about that. And once you love yourself, then you can love others.
Yeah. If I didn't want to be an empath, if I was someone who is listening to this program right now, who is into that spiritual side of life, as you are, and they're a true empath, and they say, "Look, this is depressing." Because I guess people who come to you, for instance, for counselling, they're not coming because they're in a great mood, are they?
No, people come to me because they're in suffering, that's right.
That's right. And so, if you're seeing that type of person every day, it must be depressing. In the main, they're going to leave you and you're going to carry on with your life.
But they can, because they made a decision.
That's right, they came to be better, but then all of a sudden, as an empath, you've got to absorb all this negative energy that we're talking about.
And
then they go and you'll think, "Oh my God, what am I doing?" Is that not what happens?
If it happens, it means that I didn't do my job right.
So can you cleanse yourself? So you're taking all this negative energy, and as an empath, can you at the end of the day sort of erase the negative energy or not?
Oh, well, I'll actually teach you a really simple trick that I learned in my Theta Healing training. So it's called an energy break, and it really works really well. So you rub your palms together, can do it as well. You rub your palms together, And so you bring your right palm, the hand that's closest to your body, you bring it towards you.
Yes.
Bring it down and bring it up.
And bring it up, and it's cleared.
And
it's erased.
That's kind of making, this kind of separation between, Ken and Celine.
Yes.
And bringing yourself back into your space. And I do that every time, after each session with a client, and it works really well for me.
Sure. What if it doesn't work for you? What do you do then?
It works, of course.
Works every time.
It's kind of like it's just this simple mechanism that says, now I'm back in my space and the session is over.
So when someone comes to see you and they've had a bit of a downer, so what you're saying really is that it doesn't affect you adversely?
It shouldn't. Why should it? If it really does, then I won't be able to do my work properly.
Right. And is that what happens with all empaths?
If they don't have well-defined boundaries, yes. I mean, I think a little bit of intuition and compassion is needed to work properly with your clients if you're working as, a light worker or a Reiki practitioner or whatever. Mm-hmm. But if you have too much of it, then you'll be constantly drained and exhausted, and you won't be actually able to work with clients because, you always have that stuff from the previous clients, affecting you.
So I suppose, to cut to the chase, in the main, 99.9% of the people have empathy.
100%, yes.
Yes. Except for those psychopaths out there. But we're not all empaths in the true sense of the word of what an empath is defined.
I think that's right. We're all connected to each other, but some people want to feel that connection more than others.
Yeah. So if we come along and see you and we say, look, we'd really like to hone our skills, because I think that we probably all have that ability to be an empath. And if we want to hone it, is that possible or not?
Yeah, well, lots of people come to me and say, Celine, I've always known I'm a healer.
Yes.
People tell me that I'm a healer and I want to be a healer and I don't know how to express that side of myself. Then definitely do. It's really a journey.
It is. Is it a never-ending journey?
It is a never-ending journey, but it gets better.
Okay. And on that note, just remind our listeners, if we want to come and see you, Celine, where are you?
So, the easiest way to get in touch with me is always to visit my website, so mydawninglight.com, and you'll have all the information that you need through the website.
And you make delicious bread.
And I make delicious bread, yes. I learned to make sourdough bread, and it's still a little too dense for my taste, but I'm getting there.
Good on, Celine. As always, our pleasure. You look after yourself. We'll talk to you same time, same place next time.
Talk soon.